Hello, welcome back to another Theory Thursday. Today we're going over how can music theory help out a songwriter. In particular, we're going over the circle of fifths again today and how it might help the specific situation when you're trying to write a song. So that's what we're doing today. I have my Timex Weekender on with the Navy Band today. Red tie. As always, if you've been enjoying these, please like and subscribe. It helps grow the channel, and I love making these, and I want to keep making them. So I think that's it. Without further ado, how can music theory help a songwriter? Let's go. Okay, I'm going to throw up a picture here, and I got this from CodyChops.com or EmeryChops.com, written by Cody. And so he created the image, I imagine, but it is not specific to him. This is a universal thing. This is the circle of fifths. On the outside of the ring, you'll see that there's all the major keys. And then, on the inside of the ring, you'll see the relative minors of those keys. And those also go in fifths because, well, they have to. Mathematically, it just makes sense. If the outside ring is going in fifths and the inside is relative to the outside, then of course it's also going in fifths. The cool thing about this, though, and you can see the highlighted part here, if we wanted to know what chords are in a specific key, and there's multiple ways we can figure this out, but if you have a diagram of the circle of fifths like this one, it's really easy to tell. You can see the highlighted part. Now this is highlighting the key of C major. Let's say you're a songwriter and you know that the key of C is really good for your vocal range, and you just know that. But where do you start when you're trying to write songs? So 3 things here. First of all, how music theory can help out songwriters. If you have a good idea of the circle of fifths with this diagram, you know what chords are in a key. Okay, that's number 1. Knowing what chords are in a key. Why does that help? So a lot of people like to say music theory is just a list of rules. It's not. Music theory is just a list of things that we know sound good. That's all it is, okay? There's no, you can do whatever you want. There's no rules to music. There's things that sound better than other things, depending on who you are. And that's all music theory is trying to explain, right? It's a way to communicate and put a label on things so we can talk about them. So, knowing what chords are in a key is tremendously helpful in trying to create chord progressions, because that's the basis of most songs is what's the chord progression. Now we know the most famous one is the 1 5 6 4. If you're in the key of C, that's C major, G major, A minor, and F major. Okay, so that highlighted section of chords right there, you can play any of those and it's gonna sound pretty dang good. Okay, those chords go with each other. They match up. Now what you're not seeing here is the 7th. The 7th is a B, and it's a little, in that bottom right corner. It's not highlighted. It is part of the key. It would be a B diminished technically, so maybe that's why Cody didn't highlight it. And people don't usually use it in pop music, but that's not to say you couldn't use it. But the 1 through 6 chords, those are the most popular anyway. So you can, whatever key you want to play in, just move that highlighted section. For example, let's say we wanted to play in the key of G. Make G the center of your highlights, right? So G's in the middle. D is on the right. C is on the left. That's your 5 chord and your 4 chord. And then E minor is your 6 chord. A minor is your 2 chord. B minor is your 3 chord. All those chords work together. Okay, so that's the first thing, knowing what chords go together. 2, how can this help? You know what chords don't go in a key. Now you're thinking, John, that's kind of the same as number 1. What the heck? Hear me out. This can be used to your advantage because of something we've talked about before, secondary dominance and going outside of the key form. If you're going for a very specific sound, or you know you need to put a key change in the song, maybe there's another singer coming in and they know that this, whatever key you're writing in, isn't good for them. You know what chords are in your key, and they'll say, I want to get to E major. Well, you know that B is in a C, the key of C as a B diminished. If I wanted to get to the key of E, I use what we call a secondary dominant. Well, actually, this would be a modulation because we're moving out of the key. But you could throw a B7 in there, which isn't in the key of C, right? And that'll lead you right to E major. Okay, so knowing what chords are not in the key is helpful because you can take the chords that aren't in the key and still use them if you know how to use them properly. Okay, secondary dominance and modulations. So that was an example of a modulation of a key change. So what would be an example of a secondary dominant? Well, okay, let's stick with our example key of C here. We're in the key of C, strumming along, and we want the chord progression to go C, G, or how about C, A minor, F, G. C, A minor, F, G. Okay, so those are all in the key of C, and that's fantastic. Well, here, let's just play it. Okay, so I said C, A minor, F, G, and we're back to C. Now, how can we spice this up a little bit? What's a secondary dominant? A secondary dominant is a way to get to a chord in the key using the dominant of wherever you're trying to go. So let's just pick G, for example. So C, A minor, F, G. So right before we play that G chord, we play an F chord, which is all fine and dandy. But to spice this up a little bit, how would you usually get to G in the key of G? Think about that for a second. How would you get to G in the key of G? You'd use the 5 chord, which is D major, if you're thinking in the key of G. Okay, so if we throw a D7 right before that G chord, we'll replace the F with it. So that's not in the key of C at all, because there's an F sharp in a D chord. So that's going to sound a little spicy. Check this out. I'll play the original, and then I'll play the secondary dominant. C, A minor, F, G first. I'll play C, A minor, D7, G. Okay, do you hear that? That F sharp is not in the key of C. So instantly it pulls the listener out like, whoa, what's going on here? And then you resolve to that G, which then goes to C. Okay, so that's a secondary dominant. Okay, and number 3, why this will help songwriters is you'll know what chords will give off certain emotions. So now we know that there's a bunch of chords that go together, and you can play all of them and they'll sound great and whatever. But what if you're going for a specific emotion? Is it a sad song? Is it a happy song? Is it a song where we don't know what happens in the end? So for example, if we're sticking with let's go to G just for fun. Key of G. Here's your 1 chord, G. So if you want to lead somewhere, maybe you'd put it in the 2 chord. 4. 2. You want to get sad, you put in the 6 chord. Right? You want to get back to the 1, you throw in the 5 chord. Okay, so it's the power of knowing what chords lead where, what emotions you're trying to get out of the song. So so the recap, number 1, knowing what chords go into a key. How can this help? You know what chords go together. You can play any of them. They're going to sound just fine. Number 2, you know what chords don't go into a key. So if you're trying to spice up a chord progression, maybe look at taking something from outside of the key and putting it in there. And it's even more helpful if you know about your secondary dominants and where you're trying to go, and you can set up that path the best way you can. And number 3, you'll know what emotions are associated with which chord in a key. So like we just went over, a 2 chord might be leading somewhere. A 5-7 chord was going to have you yearning for the 1 chord. The 6 chord, right, -6 is just sad, 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 sad. So there's all these emotions that are tied with these chord progressions. And music theory is just the fast track of knowing what's what, right? How put a label on the feelings, right? So that's all that is. Okay, I think that's enough information for today. If you've been enjoying these, like always, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel. And hopefully you're having a good day. I'll see you for the next one.